Over the last few weeks, hundreds of dogs have died in Zambia. This information has been confirmed by the vets. This is from an aflatoxin poisoning. Some of these products on the market have been recalled, but the latest scare has been the impact on human health. Today on this day, I sat down with the president of the Millers Association of Zambia, Andrew Chintala. My questions to him are, how much of contaminated mealie meal is on the market and what are the experts doing to fix the problem? Welcome to this day. My name is Dingindaba Jonah Wioya. Mr. Chintala, thank you so much for agreeing to talk to us on this edition of This Day. And first of all, I just want to hear what your immediate reaction is to this development on the aflatoxin contaminated dog food, and more importantly, some mealie meal as well. We understand that you've constituted a team to investigate this matter, but what's your reaction?
Right. Thank you, Jonah. It's true that according to the story, and I think the report that obviously you had carried, I think concerning the dogs, the report concerning the dogs that had died as a result of feeding them on the contaminated dog food. That is true. I can confirm that reports have filtered through and come to our office. This was detected about 2 months plus ago. And I must also mention that immediately that was reported, the affected brand was quickly withdrawn from the market, and investigations into trying to establish what was causing the high aflatoxins in the particular commodity were instituted, obviously comprising of quite a number of teams, statutory teams, or rather institutions also involved, especially those that are responsible with ensuring that the product meets the standard, as well as those that are responsible for public health and other regulations surrounding the food sector. So I can safely say that immediately that report came, we had to deploy specific measures and interventions to prevent the problem from occurring. So what happened is that immediately the product was called off the market, quarantine, and investigations instituted.
You've explained quite thoroughly about the dog food, but I'd like us also to dwell on to the mealie meal. Tell us about the mealie meal, because there's also a concern with regards mealie meal, contaminated mealie meal that is on the market and is not being talked about.
Right. Jonah, like you have rightly said, I think the second measure, just after the withdrawal was done, what we did is that, or rather what we've done is that we've deployed new measures to ensure food safety and enhance food safety, if you like. You know, aflatoxin has not really been the case in the past. If you were to track down and check in terms of this case, I think it's the first time that we're getting such cases in Zambia. So considering that we've not recorded or we've not had such cases before, immediately it was detected, we immediately had to ensure that all the millers procure or secure the testing kits for the aflatoxins, not only into the finished product, even into to also test the aflatoxins in the maize that we are buying, because what was discovered is that obviously the point as we are going to the maize has been the source of the high aflatoxin in dog food. And as a result of that, obviously the concern was that we needed to test all the byproducts of maize. And one of the first measures is to ensure that maize that is being procured on the market is tested. Secondly, that you also test the product before it is offloaded on the market. So we've tested the breakfast, we've tested the roller, and some of these products that obviously are maize byproducts. So it is safe for me to say that the interventions that have been made are actually quite sufficient enough to ensure that products are offloaded on the market are safe for human consumption as well as animal consumption. Your question is that why haven't you broken this news to the public? I think what is important is that the aflatoxin was detected in the maize. Secondly, what we did is to investigate, because we haven't zeroed in whether it is the maize or the other ingredients that were in the dog food. But because there is a concern on the roller meal, also, I think this is why we are equally now trying to say, can we investigate further so that we can get to the bottom of this? I've heard some people are saying it could be the seed, it could be the grain. So the investigations are being done by the experts who are actually yet to conclude. I think once that is concluded, then a comprehensive statement to be made by relevant stakeholders who are actually part of the current investigations being undertaken. So, but let me ask and mention that there is, it shouldn't alarm the public. Obviously, the products that are being offloaded on the market are fully tested and they are safe to consume. That I must press on record.
There is a concern from members of the public. The public are concerned that there seems to be a cover-up because, you know, this information has not been coming out. Nobody has been talking about it. And it seems, you know, the intention is for it not to come out. So is there a cover-up with this issue?
Jonah, there is no cover-up whatsoever. I think whenever a case like this, I think I'll give you an example. It is not the first time that probably a product is being recalled off the market. So if a product is found to have some defects, the most immediate thing for you to do, it is to recall the product off the market, quarantine the product, and investigate the product in order for you to get to the problem. And that is simply what has happened. So there are just a few cases, I think, where we've heard that dogs that consumed roller equally, died. But let me also, I'm not probably a competent person in that, but I'll tell you from the little knowledge that I have about the aflatoxins, we have a standard. It's not that you can get a grain that is 100% free of aflatoxin. Aflatoxin is present in the grain, is present in all the byproducts of grain, be it wheat, be it maize. So there are tolerance or accepted levels of aflatoxin that should be allowed. And in this case, if you were to look at maize, the standard, I think, in the SADC region is around about 10 parts per billion, which is 10 ppb that is actually supposed to be present in the grain. Anything other than that obviously requires some attention. Now, on the finished product, the tolerance presence of the aflatoxin is 20 ppbs. That is actually not harmful. It's acceptable that human beings can consume. Now, for animals, if you get anything like 10, 15 ppbs, it becomes harmful. So for human beings, it's not harmful. That is, if you checked even on the different platforms, let me probably quote, even maybe if you were to look at the US in terms of Food and Drugs Agency, what they accept there, because this is a country that also, I think, accepts the GMO, and we're a non-GMO country. So they look at anything between 10 to 20 parts per billion levels. So in our case, within the SADC region, anything around 15 to 20 is not harmful. It meets the standard that human beings can consume. But that range for animals, it becomes a bit dangerous. So it is not that the mealie is contaminated and is therefore harmful for human consumption. No, I think it meets the required standard permitted for the ppbs to be present in a product. So we are not doing any cover-ups. All we're doing is that we're trying to do further investigations so that we can get to the bottom of this, as this has never been the case before. But from the preliminaries, what we're getting is that this has also been caused due to the climatic conditions that have been prevailing in the country and in the region. So the grain somehow has been compromised, and as a result, we are getting these fungal kind of infection in some of the grains that have been available on the market.
Is there any mealie meal that has been recalled? Can you confirm to us that there's mealie meal that has been recalled off of the market?
Well, obviously, I wouldn't want to preempt that because obviously there's a team working on it, and I think we'll be able to issue a comprehensive statement at an opportune time. I think there was only one or two of the brands that obviously were reported by those that have been affected and by, I think, through the dogs that were lost. But what I've said, I think it's not that the commodity really was not fit for human consumption in terms of safe, but it's owing to the reasons that I've just given. But we are still conducting those investigations. It could be just from two brands that have been recalled. So we are monitoring. I think this is an everyday activity for us now. I think there's a team of experts that are checking this. So for us, our responsibility is that at X-Gate, we need to check the grain coming in. And from production, we are able to check what we are releasing on the market. And obviously, for the comfort of the public, Jonah, every time that you are producing, we have a monitoring mechanism where you mark the product that you're releasing on the market. So it is very possible to actually tell the number of bags that you produced on a particular day, how many you have released, and where you've released it, because we have the production records and we have the dispatch records. So it was very easy for us to quickly get into the market and recall some of these products. And the investigations so far, I think, are not quite alarming. And I must say that public should not panic, because whatever it is that is on the market is safe for human consumption. I must insist on that, because I've gotten a bit of some concerns from some people. I must say that the product is safe to consume. So that which was found wanting and think was quarantined, and necessary measures or steps have been applied to ensure that that is corrected and concluded.
To what extent has there been publicity to the general public on this recall? Because this product that has been recalled is supposed to be made aware to the people. And so the question is, why is it being done silently?
Well, Jonah, there are processes and procedures. Like I've said, if you are still trying to investigate and to establish exactly, if you may allow me, probably I'm also not a medical expert. So if you are a diabetic patient and you consume some foodstuff that you do not usually consume, and it triggers your sugar levels, obviously it is folly for you to just conclude and zero in on one particular product. I think what you need to do, obviously, this is why we interrogate the activities in terms of what you were able to consume throughout the day, in order for us to get to the point as in what really has caused the problem or triggered the sugar levels. So the same case applies with the aflatoxin. So you will be able to get the particles. You'll be able to get the aflatoxins in the finished product. But like I've said, there are parameters, there are levels that are acceptable in terms of what qualifies it to be safe for human consumption and human consumption. So if you look at the quantities of the products that were released on the market, it is not much. Therefore, I think it was not necessary, and it's still not necessary to alarm the public, because whatever was offloaded was quickly recalled. So there could have been just a few that were released, and those that were able to be contacted, I think that was done. But the investigations have not yet been concluded. That's why I'm saying it is premature for us to quickly go and issue a statement when the investigations in terms of what really caused that has been officially established. So would leave the experts to do a comprehensive investigation and bring the results as they should be, so that the statement now is issued so that the public is made aware. So there's nothing that is being covered. As I can confirm that everything for us, we are testing, and all the products that have been offloaded from that very day we were elated is being tested, and I can confirm it is safe for human consumption.
Which of the brands are you dealing with have been recalled off of the market?
Right. A very good question, Jonah. Like I've said, I think those are details that you get in a statement that will be issued. I think there are other players, and I think it's a team, like I've said, comprising obviously of government agencies as well. So I wouldn't really preempt that. I think something is being worked on, and I think the public will be made aware of this at an opportune time. So for now, I think my responsibility is to ensure that the measures that have been put in place are followed through, and the correct measures and the correct interventions are being applied on a daily basis. So I think that is what I can say for now. So in terms of releasing the details of the quantities that were recalled, and obviously which ones were involved and all that, that will be released. For now, I think investigations have been done, and once that is concluded, then we'll be able to. There's nothing to hide. This is a public activity, and therefore there's no information. There's no need for us to withhold information until the investigations are thoroughly done and concluded. Then a comprehensive statement to be issued.
I'll take you a little bit back. You said something about the grain, and you know that this could be the source, and that's why the investigation is happening at the moment. Would you just kindly explain what that means and what the worry is with the grain?
Yeah, what I mean is that before you produce mealie meal, before you produce stock feed, before you produce animal feed, it starts from the grain. If you like, I'm saying the PPB that is PPBs that are the parts per billion levels that are accepted in the grain, be it maize, be it wheat, is around 10 ppb. So when it's still in the grain, that aflatoxin level is okay to be in the grain. When it is processed, you expect the levels of the aflatoxin to increase from probably 10 to about 20. That is still safe. It is not. It is safe for consumption. So what we are saying is that there could be some grain coming from other regions that could have been affected by the aflatoxins, and then all you can do is that you need to test the grain as the grain is coming, and then you need to, obviously, as you are doing the testing, you are also investigating where is this grain coming from, which province, which district. So what that means is that we are trying to get to the bottom of the problem. So if it's in the grain, we arrest it at that level. So once you receive your grain, which is contaminated, it means that even the byproduct will definitely be contaminated. So we are trying to isolate at what point did this product get contaminated. Was it at production stage? Was it from the grain, which is the raw material in this case? Was it the handling? So we are following through the stages that are involved, from the procurement stage of the grain coming into the mill, and from into the mill through into the production machines. From there, I think, into the market, into the market. So these are processes and stages that are being managed. So we are managing these processes every day. A thing that was not the case, I think, before that was detected, because obviously we know that for us, our interest has always been in the finished product. That's where we test. But now when the reports came that even the dog food, we equally now had to deploy measures to ensure that even the raw material itself be tested before it could actually be processed into anything, either mealie meal or dog food or any other byproducts of maize. So hence, we are saying we are also checking on the maize that is coming on the market or coming into the into the mills.
My next question is, what action you have taken and what action needs to be taken against these milling companies that are responsible for the aflatoxin contamination. And if we can confirm that some of these brands, especially with regards to, because we can confirm that some of these brands with regards to dog food have recalled stuff, their stuff off the market. And the question is, what is being done, you know, after this, issue?
Absolutely, Jonah. You see, there's traceability. That is the beauty about this. And that traceability goes back from the consumer to actually what dog food did you feed on your dogs? So this is why I think we have institutions such as Zambia Compulsory Standards, Zambia Metrology Agency, Zambia Bureau of Standards. And this is why they insist that you need to label your product correctly. And obviously, it is for such reasons that when something goes wrong and a product is found on the market, it's easy to trace it back from the producers. And now what we're trying to do is that the process that is being undertaken is very, very important. For us to be able to take any measures, it has to be informed by the investigations that have been conducted. Was it negligence? Was it the handling of the grain? Was it the handling of the product that was being processed? Was it as a result of the higher aflatoxins in the grain? So that being the case, I think appropriate measures will be taken depending on what the reports and the findings of reports will be. So I wouldn't really want to jump to the conclusion, and I can safely say that, look, the necessary measures will be taken if once the conclusion of the investigations are done. Definitely something is being done even as we speak. I think even before we could get into that, what we've done is that we are putting in preventive measures from ensuring that no more dogs are lost and no human life is lost. And hence, I think we've been proactive on this and very, very active from the time that I think this warning was given. So in as far as the actions to be taken, that will be communicated. But for now, I think it's very important that we allow the due process of these investigations being done to be concluded, because we are trying to get to the bottom of this problem. So I think that is where we are for now. And obviously necessary measures will be taken, and whatever that actions or decision will be made will be communicated to the public in due course.
Let's talk about the testing procedure. With this that has happened now, should the public have confidence in the testing procedures that you have set up?
Definitely, Jonah. I think from the experts, first of all, we cannot rule out that the heavy presence of the aflatoxin currently that we're discussing has been obviously been the result of the high moisture prevailing conditions in the country as well as in the region. I would want to say what I said earlier on again, is that this is the very first time that we have to deal with these issues in terms of aflatoxins. I'm trying to qualify this by saying, look, you cannot get grain or even the byproduct of grain, either groundnut or wheat or maize, which is aflatoxin free. What happens is that their tolerance, according to the standards and the recommendations of a specific standard that speaks to the acceptable standard developed by each country or region, if you like. So our product really is, I mean, when we're exporting, if the borders are open, is exported in the region. And for you to be able to do that, it means that it meets the set out standards. So the products that we produce meet the required standards as per local or Zambian standard in terms of mealie meal production, maize standard. And these we ensure that we follow. This is why we have institutions that are responsible for regulating and enforcing the necessary standards or laws to ensure that the stakeholders comply with stipulated standards or conditions. So yes, Jonah, you have equipments, and in fact, for certification of the certification of most of these products, we have different laboratories, both private and government owned, where these products can be taken to be tested for people to know that indeed the product is safe to consume. So what we're doing is that we have institutions that are responsible to ensure that consumers are consuming safe products on the market. We have institutions that are there to ensure that the products are labeled correctly, batch numbers, weight, the ingredients, and all that is done. Those are monitoring and ensuring that that is being done. Really, I can say that with the mechanism, with the system in place, the products are safe, because it's not just the millers. We are private producers. You have the oversight institutions of government that are watching what we're doing. So more than that, Jonah, if you may allow me, we have brands to protect. You cannot risk a brand by continuing to supply or deliver a commodity that is compromised on the market. It takes a lot to build a brand, and it takes just a little to destroy that. And the moment you hear there is an outbreak in the grain, and you are in the business of dealing with a grain, either a trader or a miller or a processor, whatever you want to call, you have to ensure that you deploy maximum regulations, monitoring mechanisms to ensure that you do not bring in either grain that is contaminated, or you do not release a product that is contaminated, because if something goes wrong in the market, it gets a negative reaction from the public. So we are mindful of that. And this is why we are working 24/7 to ensure that we work with all the other stakeholders in tracing back where these high aflatoxin figures or levels are coming from. But what is important for us to note is that aflatoxins can be found in the groundnuts, can be found in the maize grain, can be found in the wheat grain. But what is important to note is that when it is produced, it has to meet a certain allowed or tolerated or accepted levels of the parts per billion figure of at least something around to 20 ppbs in a finished product. And for grain, around 10, it's still safe for you to be able to use in terms of producing any product. But let me also mention and emphasize this, that what is safe for human consumption in terms of the presence of the aflatoxin in a product could be harmful to animals such as dogs. So obviously experts can explain that better to you, but that's what we know. So therefore, what we are saying is that the products that are on the market are safe for human consumption. The dog food that is being produced, even today, companies have produced, yesterday they produced, all the products that have been released from that period, they are being monitored and indeed cleared before they get into the market. So the system that is there is quite adequate enough to detect the aflatoxin before it is actually offloaded or exposed to the public.
I'm glad you brought up the issue of groundnuts, because I was reading a report and also sat down with some experts who were explaining that over the years there's been a concern that the groundnuts, the Zambian groundnuts, have got very high aflatoxin that is above the accepted standard, the prescribed standard. And I want to find out if this is true and if you're aware of it and what you are doing as the Millers Association of Zambia to address this problem.
Yes, this is why I've said that, Jonah, one of the measures that we've deployed is to ensure that all the raw materials that are being procured, we test, because obviously, if you are able to detect it in a finished product, the only conclusive summary of this would be that you first of all go through the process involved. And we are doing that. And I think the experts are telling us that, look, it is the conditions that have been prevailing. Others obviously went further and were saying probably we need to also interrogate the type of seed. And this is why I'm saying that the part of the process, Jonah, is not just to recall the product. It is to trace the supply from the grain itself. Where did it come from? Which region? Which district? Who is the supplier? We have all this information. That's why when we are buying, we take records, either be it from the small-scale farmer, from the commercial farmer. We record the names. We record the details of a person supplying grain. We get the details in terms of the name, the contact number, and also where they're coming from. So that in an event something goes wrong through the production value chain, we are able to easily trace back and be able to detect a problem and deal with. So yes, the experts are telling us, because I am saying to you that the levels that have been recorded, especially I think in the dog food, were quite high as compared to what we've been experiencing in the recent past. We've never had these issues, John. I think you can also confirm that. And I'm attesting to it to say we've not had these cases, but this is why now we are highly, I think, on alert to ensure that we deploy and ensure that we effectively monitor the processes involved from procurement through to production, so that we ensure that whenever products are going out in the market, we can safely say consumers are safe, the animals are safe. So we have been given the warning to say there is something wrong happening in the market, and we are checking, and all of us are busy working on this to ensure that the problem is addressed. If it is from the grain, it has to. If it's from the seed companies that are involved would have to be engaged and ensure that that is addressed. If it's the grain, the suppliers of the grain will need to check, is it the handling? Is this the storage? So what could have led to this? So those are the details. So it is not a simple task. It's quite a huge one, because we have to really deal with the biggest problem. So some of the things that we are looking at now, these are symptoms. So we're trying to establish what the problem is that is causing these things. So clearly, I think I wouldn't really be asking for too much to say that I think the public needs to be assured, first of all, that the product available on the market is safe for consumption. Secondly, bear with us once the investigations are done into this matter. I think the public will be made aware of the outcome of the investigations. So we received reports of the presence of this, but over the past few weeks, we've not had any new cases apart from the odd cases that we are responding to and we are dealing with. I must obviously express my obviously sympathy and apologies to those that may have lost the animals as a result of feeding the animals with contaminated products. And I know that some of one of the consumers I hear and I've been reading is that they received the donated products. It's very, very unfortunate, but obviously no one would actually intend to carry out such a gesture in order to cause some pain or loss to anyone. So we are all mindful, and we are very much aware and very much alert that whatever activities that are prevailing, that are happening in the procurement process and processing process, they're actually checked thoroughly and ensure that we prevent this problem from reoccurring. I must mention that we've not really been checking thoroughly about the aflatoxin, because it has not been the problem that we've experienced or that we've had before. So it's like some of the outbreaks that you are getting, you're talking of the influenza. Remember when there was an outbreak of the COVID, we had to deploy measures that were to arrest this. And we are also doing the same in as far as ensuring food safety in whatever it is that we are producing and offloading on the public for consumption.
Finally, let's talk about food security, Mr. Chintala. We are now in August, and with the drought that we experienced in the last season, I want to find out from you if we should conclude that we are food secure as a country, and if at all there's any need for people to worry about the food security of Zambia.
Right. Very, very good question, Jonah. I think from where I'm sitting, I think, some people predicted that we'll not even be able to get to August or July. But if you look at the figures in terms of the food balance sheet that was released, and the interventions that have been deployed so far by both government and all the stakeholders, the millers inclusive, sealing off the borders to ensure that there are no spillages of either grain or finished product mealie meal, that has helped us to ensure that the stability of the supply, one. Two, there's also, I think, stability in terms of the price. I think for the last 2 months, you are able to see the activities. Now, one of the biggest thing that obviously should give comfort to the consumers is that the government has given authority to the stakeholders to outsource or to source for maize from wherever you can, as long as it meets the required standards in terms of its non-GMO, and there are certain other specifications that have been given that the grain has to meet. So you are allowed to import. So if you are a miller and you are a trader and you sense that you do not have sufficient stocks and the borders are open for you to go out there and outsource and bring it in. So we are monitoring the inflow of maize on the domestic market, and also as an extra, or rather an advantage to that, is that government also is involved. You heard not so long ago, a few weeks ago, there was an update that government has started bringing in a grain from Tanzania, which has been procured to meet any anticipated shortfalls. So with that intervention, I can safely say that there is no need for the public to panic, because we have grain right now, and should there be an urgent need for us to be able to import, the authority has already been given an SI to allow the importation of grain has already been signed, and duties and taxes have been suspended for those that wish to import the grain. But since you've raised the issue of food security, Jonah, we're looking at it and discussing at the food security issue at a more commercial or national level. May I take this opportunity to appeal to our farmers that even as they are selling the grain, because obviously the price that is currently prevailing on the market is quite attractive. Even as the price may be attractive, please, my plea is that let us begin to promote household food security. Don't sell all your harvest. Don't sell everything that you harvested. Leave some of the maize for your own home or domestic consumption, if you like. Offload only the surplus, that which you need to be able to sell, to be able to trade, get the money, and invest back into the inputs so that you begin to prepare for the next season. We are grateful, Jonah. I think we have to say that this has not just been the human interventions. This has also been divine intervention, that the situation is as normal as it is currently. We anticipated that we are going to have a tough time, but thank God we were able to buy grain as the market was progressing, and we continue producing the mealie meal. We are faced with the load shedding, which obviously to some extent may have helped in terms of we are not able to maximize production, and the demand is not as one would have thought. So there are so many things that are at play, and I'm thinking we are almost getting closer. Obviously, when we expect that we should be closer to the next season, and we shouldn't have anything to worry about. Should there be need, I think I've said government has already opened the borders to allow the importation. So we are studying the market, monitoring the inflow of the maize. I think when the need arises, we'll all, I think, jump in and be able to deploy the measures that are necessary to ensure that we do not compromise the food security situation. But suffice to say that I think you do not expect when not to find the mealie meal not to be on the shelves. So we are committed to that cause and will ensure that we work with the government and other stakeholders in ensuring that we are always providing and producing the product, and Zambians can access it, I think, within their reach, not that you have to move miles and miles to go and find the commodity. So with the interventions being deployed by both the stakeholders as well as government, I can safely say there's no need for the citizens or for us to panic as a country. I think the measures being deployed are quite sufficient to ensure that we do not have a situation where we run out of the grain, where we run out of the mealie meal completely. I think the measures are quite sufficient to ensure that we get to the next harvest season.
Thank you, Mr. Chintala, for talking to us.
I appreciate it. It's a pleasure. I hope that obviously with institutions like yourself, you will help us to disseminate the information to the public. I know it could be alarming, and the information itself, it's of an alarming nature. And obviously, I take responsibility that we needed to inform, and I think we will do that, make regular updates once a full comprehensive report is done so that the public is made aware. But otherwise, I would like to say that there is no information that is being kept away from the public for any reasons whatsoever. But all we are doing is to establish what the problem is. Until we establish that, then we can feed the public with the correct information, other than to release information that is half-baked, which is has the potential to cause panic and alarm, which is not necessary. So we have experts that are following up and monitoring this activity to ensure that the product is safe for human consumption as well as livestock and animal consumption. So what we have on the market, Jonah, is very, very for human consumption.
All right, thank you.